Hey everyone, January 15th, 2025, the day that dry January ended. Yes, it did. Hello everyone. I'm having a cocktail with you for Humpday Happy Hour. Welcome to Dentist in the Know Humpday Happy Hour. This is your backstage pass for current trends, politics, and education in the dental world. We are live. And we are over a delicious and well-poured cocktail tonight. Anyway, we are here to provide you with everything that is important to know about the dental industry. And as I said, it is going to be uninhibited. It is going to be fun. And I'm with some of my best friends in the industry to do this. We're all getting ready to head down to Mexico. We're going to be there for ADA Aspire meeting, which we all cannot wait for. But I want to introduce you to my partners in crime in this little venture we call Dentists in the Know. And that is Dr. Chad Duplantis and Dr. Jennifer Bell. Together, we try to bring you everything you need to know about dentistry. We are all dentists. We are all educators, and we're all business owners. And you know what our job is?
To bring all of you
in the know.
No, I like that. Maybe I should leave that always for you guys to kind of chime in and do.
You should.
So guys, I'm excited about tonight for a lot of reasons. One is I busted up my dry January right now, which I'm very excited about in preparation for Mexico because I can't go there as a lightweight.
No, you can't.
So I had to kind of ease myself into it. So I said, damn it, I'm going to start tonight. But second, I love our guest tonight. We have Eric Block with us, Dr. Eric Block, who is a dentist, a key opinion leader, an entrepreneur. He has a podcast, the Stress-Free Dentist. And I'm really excited to hear what he has to say because I'm freaking stressed, you guys. And even as long as I've done this, it doesn't matter. I can always use some great advice on ways to take the stress out of the way that I practice. Because I promise you, there's a lot of people who have figured it out way more than I have. And so I love hearing from them. But anyway, how's JB, how's your week? That's what I want to know.
The week is progressing fine. Here's a crazy story. So it's only been 5 or 6 days since the snowstorm, as you'll recall, Jeff, being in South Carolina, of the Carolinas came through, only to dump 8 inches of snow in Texas at my sister's house and dump, I don't know, a quarter of an inch here, maybe some sleet.
Yeah.
My kids built like a ice man instead of a snowman out of what they could like gather out of the grass. And so I just feel like we're in a bit of a topsy-turvy situation. I got a notification last night on Wednesday of next week that Raleigh could expect 15 to 18 inches of snow.
Really?
And now...
Has that ever happened before? I mean, I've known
not since I was in college. When I was in college, we got 18 inches of snow in Chapel Hill. So that's been almost 20 years.
It's crazy how different that is for how close you are to me. I mean, we're only driving 2 hours and 35 minutes away from each other.
Right.
And yet we have never had more than a dusting. And
Ever.
that happens once every 10 years. And yet you guys are so prone to getting these snows.
Or ice. It's one of the two. It's like, it's really kind of a terrible latitude, I think is the right word. So anyway, we're knee deep in it now. The kids haven't even come over the hangover from being on holiday break, right? And then we had snow days and now we're looking at more snow days. So basically my kids won't have been in legit school for a consistent period of time. I'm estimating now probably till the middle of February. So we're surviving at this point, just, taking it day to day.
Oh, see, they don't like the cold either.
No. Chad, how has your week been?
Well, I'm flying solo tonight, and I've got 3 dogs in the room, and I'm sorry if they bark. So I apologize, because the old one is senile. He barks incessantly. Then the younger one barks, and then the puppy decides that she's going to bark too. So I think it stopped for now. But my week is great. And by the way, your sister, if she said we got 8 inches of snow,
She got 8 in Salina. She really did.
bullshit. I'm just saying.
6 inches. I mean, she got legit snow. I'm telling you, I got the picture.
We did.
You
get
say
quite a bit
Salina,
last-
I say Selena.
Yeah.
we did get quite a bit last week. We had a snow day at the office, but the crazy thing is that, okay, so on Thursday morning, I told the team that I would call it by 6:15. The school district had already closed the day before when it was sunny and 45 outside. And I was like, there's no way we're closing.
Mhm.
I wake up at 5:45. I'm talking to my office manager, and I was like, I have a really hard time closing when there's actually nothing coming down. There's nothing coming down. I said, but we have to trust the radar. Let's just go ahead and close. 15 minutes later, it started, and it didn't stop for 2 days.
It was crazy.
It was crazy. Yeah. Yeah. And it was literally like it was sleet, and then it was snow, and then it was mixed precipitation, and then it was freezing rain, and then it was sleet, and then it was snow. But it was very pretty. Roads were pretty messy for a couple days, but glad that we got it under control. And I always say that the reason that we have to shut down here when we get this is because we have no way to clean the roads.
Yeah.
I saw my first Keller, Texas snowplow.
Y'all have a snowplow?
We have snowplows. And what's funny
you have
is
a snowplow.
I live right on the border of Keller and Westlake, and Westlake is the really rich community or whatever. They don't have snowplows. So like the snowplow stopped at the border, and they were like, screw you, Westlake, y'all are done. You're on your own. And so you could see exactly where Keller began and ended. And it was actually pretty nice.
Your
So
taxpayer dollars at work, Chad.
What I want to know is, were the roads paved to Aquina?
yes, they
Okay. This is like my new favorite Italian restaurant.
I
Yeah,
hate to
we're
tell you,
gonna have
Jeff,
to go.
I'm gonna go ahead and throw you under the bus because I love you. Would you please stop saying Aquino? Because on the pictures, it said the name clearly. It's freaking Aquario.
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 I don't care what it is. It was good.
Aquino. But no. It's Aquario.
Who
But
cares?
yeah, the
Yeah.
roads were
cares,
the roads
Chad?
were clear to Aquario.
Aquario.
The Aquario.
The people
Okay.
still got their good Italian
call me,
food
Chad?
that evening.
I don't know.
What'd you call me?
I don't know.
Okay.
Jeff.
Don't. JB's like, don't
Don't
Yeah.
take the bait.
Yeah.
do not engage.
Yeah.
Do not
So-
engage.
Hey,
It's a trap.
we've talked enough. I'm sure JB has some news.
I'm sure she does too. It's good to
Guys,
see you
I
both.
do, but I don't. It's like kind of a weird time. We've got all the California fires going on, and I'm sure over the next couple of weeks, right now, I think we're kind of in this odd period where no one really quite knows what our colleagues need yet, because maybe unlike Helene, where some of the colleagues were without power or water, like some fractional utilities, some did have devastating loss to their practice. So it was kind of this whole mixed bag. I think those practices that were impacted by the fires in California, it's going to either be fine or awful. There's not going to be any in between. So I think we're still waiting to hear what the overall situation is, and then obviously how we can help, or, what our colleagues will need to kind of put back the pieces of the puzzle. I just can't imagine if that happened in my hometown, and I think would be actually true for our guests tonight, I would lose my business and my home simultaneously, because it's all within, and I think a lot of dentists are that way. They work, live, and play all kind of within a small geography of one another. So if you have a devastating loss like that in your community, you probably feel it both at home and are trying to put the pieces back together that way, but also in your own professional life too. So I don't know. Anyway, but that's obviously the big story. And we're competing with Joe Biden right now in his farewell address. So probably no one is going to watch tonight because there's just a lot going on. but we'll piece some news together for you.
Well,
Okay.
I think that's a very valid point that you bring up, and I meant to bring it up earlier, is that our hearts do go out to every single one of our colleagues, friends, family members, anybody that's affected by the California wildfires. Jeff and I spoke with our good friend Dr. Abdi Samani last week, and he is fine. His practice is fine, but he was mentioning these doctors that we had met at his LA Dental Symposium that have lost everything, and so our hearts and prayers certainly go out to all of them in California, because that is just devastating.
And that may have since changed too, Chad, because some of those fires have actually spread into areas that had not been affected when we talked
Right.
to them. So
Right.
we really need to follow up. But
Yeah.
ditto to what Chad said. We really do. We're thinking about you, and in any way the DINKS community can help, please let us know. We don't know what to do, but if there is something, we are certainly a community that would love to band together and help.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, without further ado, let's give JB her news segment.
Okay, let's get to it. So I thought this was kind of an interesting story. There was a final rule that happened just last week from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, where they have now put out a rule that states that medical debt will not be on your credit report. Now, I think there's pros and cons to this particular ruling, and certainly by posting this, we'll open up some good, healthy debate in the comment section. From the dental perspective and from dentists in general, if the debt is accrued from a dentist, a hospital, a medical provider, and it doesn't show up on your credit history, then what incentive does the consumer have to pay that debt? If I know that I can go buy a car tomorrow and on my debt, I have $100,000 worth of medical debt sitting on my credit report that would impact my credit rating, and yet it doesn't. So I can go buy a car tomorrow and no one is the wiser for that debt. Now, the argument on the other side would be, number one, it's patient protected information. If I go buy a car, what business is it of the person selling me the car that I had to have extensive medical procedures done at a hospital? It certainly does float this very odd line of HIPAA protection and consumer protection. But as a dentist, I can fully appreciate the fact that if my debt to that patient doesn't show up on their credit report, then the incentive for them to pay me versus their home, their car, their shopping debt, whatever other consumer debt they may have, I'm now at the bottom of the barrel. So obviously, institutions like the ADA and medical institutions, et cetera, are challenging that final rule to move medical debt back onto consumer ratings and their credit reports, so that at least we're all playing with the same equal opportunity to maybe someday get paid for our services. A lot of activity happening around coding. We talked a lot about that last week. The maintenance committee is going to be meeting in March to review those new proposed codes, those codes that have not been approved yet by the coding maintenance committee, but a few that have been approved that might be of interest to some of our fellow dentites who follow the podcast. If you perform saliva testing or send out for laboratory diagnostic saliva testing, you may now have CDT codes that you can use for billing purposes. We're not going to go through the laundry list of codes that you can use and where their applications would fall, but just know that there are now new codes available to dentists to use for saliva testing, both in-office testing as well as laboratory testing. And in fact, additional coding mechanisms for providing all the mechanisms and paperwork for patients to perform saliva testing, but they do it at home, send it to a laboratory and receive those results back from the laboratory. New codes that can be deployed, dentists can use for reimbursements. Whether or not the insurance company will pay for that, that's a whole nother conversation for another day, but at least you can attach a CDT code to that. That's what the Coding Maintenance Committee is doing on our behalf on an annual basis, to look at these different opportunities within a practice that don't really fall rightfully so in any of the existing codes, and start to create their own niches. So, for instance, you might start to see pain treatments and laser therapy and sleep codes. All of these things have started to develop over the last few years because dentists were performing those procedures in their offices, but having to use the 999 code because it really didn't fall within any of the given buckets. So we'll continue to see additional advancements in March. But for now, if you are doing saliva testing in your practice, you have official codes that you can use instead of the 999s. Another interesting update for our dear doctors who do accept Medicare, and I think one of them might be on this podcast this evening. There's some new information about how we need to submit our claims forms for reimbursement with Medicare. They are now going to require modifiers to be applied to those codes, administrative modifiers to the codes. Now, if you're enrolled in Medicare to provide Part B covered services, you'll need to add that appropriate administrative modifier code to each procedure on your ADA dental claim form. This will begin July 1. Lots of information available to you online if you need additional information. We're here to give it to you, but we don't want to bore the rest of the audience who doesn't provide services to Medicare. We will post some links to that after the show for you to find additional information for reimbursement. Lastly, we're not going to see the fluoride debate go away too soon, although we know the clock is ticking for when Trump will take office, and we will see an uptick of activity from RFK Jr. on some of these different activities within the EPA, within the CDC, within the National Institute for Health, et cetera, on food and other environmental agencies. The ADA is already starting to push on the EPA for the fluoride statute. We know that it was just this summer that a judge ruled that it needed to go back to the EPA for review of whether or not fluoride in water was both safe to the consumer and necessary. So now it's in the hands of the EPA to do research and to create a ruling on that. How much latitude they will have on final regulatory decisions is still yet to be seen. But we are already seeing other agencies starting to put pressure on the EPA for support of fluoride in the municipal water systems, and the ADA is included in that list. And with that, that's the news.
I do have one more news segment before we introduce our guest, and I'm going to try to do this as eloquently as Jennifer does.
Let's see.
But this past week, there is a dental industry report titled Powerful Trends Shaping the Dental Industry, and it's from Fraser and Dieter, which is a top U.S. business advisory and accounting firm. And the report sheds lights on key innovations transforming the dental industry and what dental professionals and practice owners must do to stay ahead. Well, we as Dentists in the Know are thrilled to share that our educational partners, Curve Dental, were recognized in that report. And I think that's really a great thing. We're very proud of our friends at Curve. Both Jeff and I are seeing how they're transforming the dental industry. So it's no surprise to us, but it's nice to see some of our good friends get recognition. So congrats to Curve Dental for your recent recognition. I know it means a lot to you all, and it means a lot to us as well. So thank you for your support.
Well said, Chad.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Guys, did you know Becker's came out? They do their different reports. 31% of hygienists reported in a survey recently that they expect to retire in the next 6 years.
Yeah, it's going to get uglier.
Yeah.
Uglier.
Uglier.
That was like UGLY-ER.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, should I introduce our guest while Jeff brings him up?
We would love that.
So I'm going to take a minute to introduce our guest while Jeff brings him to the stage. But our guest tonight is Dr. Eric Block. I met Eric about 4 years ago in the midst of COVID at the Smiles at Sea, which was on land at an Embassy Suites in Orlando. And one of the first things I noticed about this guy is, like any competition that they had at this event, he was front center. He was doing things with a towel on this certain dance that I don't know should be reproduced in public, but he was well, I mean, he had an imaginary towel, but he was dancing. I mean, this guy's a dancer. So anyways, Eric is a full-time practicing dentist in Acton, Massachusetts. He is an entrepreneur, an advisor, a KOL, an investor. He's passionate about helping dentists. He runs the stress-free dentist podcast. But this is really interesting. He is the co-founder of the International Academy of Dental Life Coaches, IADLC.com. So after this guy became a dentist, he decided that he was going to become a life coach and he was going to relate it to dentistry. And he's actually taken that on as a passion, pursued it, and actually created an organization that can promote that profession amongst our profession. He's the author of a series of nonfiction and children's books. I will post the link in the comments for Eric's children's books. But if you'd like to learn more about Eric, go to thestressfreedentist.com, which will show his upcoming events and tell you a little bit more about who he is. But I've just been intrigued. He's a great guy. Enjoyed meeting him. I did his podcast not too long ago, and we're honored to have him with us tonight. So Eric, thanks for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me. A pleasure.
Yeah, sorry, I had to throw it out there, dude. I was slightly disturbed, but also impressed by your dancing moves at the Smiles and See thing.
I left it all out there on that stage.
You
I think that's the only dance competition I've ever entered, and I won. So I've officially retired from dance competitions.
Yeah,
and so I went out on top.
you deserve to win.
What
you
became of the imaginary towel? That's what I want to know. It
was a funky move, man. I mean, it was like flossing almost. I mean, it was quite impressive. And then he did the shoe shining thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
I did the sprinkler. I did the John
Yeah.
Travolta thing from Pulp Fiction. I just did it all. I think I blanked out for like 10 minutes when I was up there. I don't really remember too much, but he
left no stone unturned.
Yeah. Yep.
And Jeff, you're really going to like this. You want to know, I forgot to tell you this last part because Eric may not know that I know this, but I know this and I'm impressed by it. I believe Eric has his undergrad from Tulane University.
Mm-hmm. Yep. That's right.
And Jeff, you know who else he knows very well?
Who?
Oh, your favorite in the industry.
Well, that could be a lot of
We're
people.
right here.
Laura.
Oh!
I told you.
Really?
Yeah.
Laura Brenner Studham.
Yeah. So Eric and Laura done a lot together, but Eric, tell us a little bit about your journey to become a dentist.
Yeah, not your non-traditional journey. I went to Tulane, as you mentioned, and I thought I was going to be part of the business school there. I sat through microeconomics and macroeconomics and statistics, and I said, nope, this is not for me. So I dropped out of that, and I had to choose something. So I chose psychology as my major, and I was on the track to graduate with a degree in psychology. But I think it was at the end of my junior year, I just missed my mouth. I was at a bar called the Rendon Inn in New Orleans, and I broke my number 9 central incisor with a beer bottle. I just missed, and I walked around that night with half a tooth. And the next day,
Little Dumb and Dumber action.
Yeah.
Oh, it was exactly. It was totally a Dumb and Dumber. I think even the piece of tooth that broke off, my friends were scrambling around to grab it, to have it as like bragging rights. But the next day I went to a local dentist in Metairie, Louisiana, and they just took care of me and I loved it. They gave me my smile back, and I said, you know what? This is something I could do. So I started taking the prereqs. I graduated with psychology degree, and I took a year off. I taught tennis and took physics and organic and took the DATs. and that was my year off. And then I got into Nova Southeastern. I was actually the second class to graduate back in '02. And then I did a 2-year residency at BU as an implant residency, and graduated there in '04. And then from there, I've been practicing, and I actually live and practice in the same town in Acton, which is about 30 minutes west of Boston.
Okay, so question, just as a and Jeff can relate. Jennifer's not there yet, but as a parent of a college or 2 college students, when you decided to become a dentist and you were so close to your psychology degree and you had to go take these other classes, did you take those at Tulane or did you go elsewhere?
No, I took some of them over the summer, and these were all local colleges: Merrimack College, UMass Lowell. These were colleges and near me. And I really felt like with such classes like organic and general chemistry, and I needed a smaller classroom setting.
Yeah.
So I took those more locally to me, but I chose to do dentistry sort of late in the game in college. So I had to do some catch up. And I finished with a degree in psychology, but there was no pre-dental or pre-medical major. So psychology is what I chose.
Hey man, I'm just glad because my son's about to graduate in May, and if he decided that he wanted to do something else right now, and he goes to a private university, and he decided that he wanted to take more classes there to fulfill that requirements, I would kick his ass. I'd be like, you know what? Nope, you're coming home and you're going to Tarrant County College, and that's where you're going to take the classes that you need for that degree that you want. You'll still have your degree from Belmont, but the rest of it, yeah, you can take that elsewhere. Mm-hmm. So, no, as a parent, I was just curious. So, all right, that makes more sense. That makes me feel much better about you and about your parents. So,
so I want to hear about what happened when you got into practice, and then what was the motivation to now branch out into helping dentists have less stress, and tell us a little bit about how you developed your entrepreneurial chops.
There was 2 eureka moments that I had. The first eureka moment was about halfway through my career, where I hated dentistry, and I told myself I regretted it. I wanted to do something else. I wanted out. I was so afraid of getting sued. I was so anxious. I had so much stress. I was just showing your classic signs of burnout. I couldn't wait to go home at the end of the day to decompress. I couldn't wait until the weekend so I could decompress from the week. I couldn't wait to go home for lunch for an hour. And for sure, I said, I can't wait until I retire so I don't have to do this anymore. I had a good old fashioned case of perfectionism, and I was just beating myself up, and I just was not enjoying life. And I said, you know what, you know, Blocky, you got another 30 years at this, at least. You've got to do something. You've got to enjoy your life. You got to enjoy your profession. And I finally picked up the phone and I called a local therapist. Again, I graduated with a degree in psychology, so I always knew at some point I wanted to go through therapy. But this eureka moment was me looking in the mirror and saying, let's do this. And I picked up the phone. I called a local therapist and I started going every 2 weeks. We mixed in some prescribed medications, and we just dug into what made me tick and why I was so anxious and so stressed. And it was all up here. It was me putting too much pressure on myself, which I know a lot of dentists do. And it didn't happen overnight for sure, but I was able to actually get back to the point where I love going into work every day. Now, I for sure have good days and bad days. And there is tons of stress. Part of the stress-free mantra is that there will be stress, but it's the understanding that this is a difficult profession we chose. There's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be bad reviews. There's going to be patients that are pissed off. There's going to be difficult conversations with staff members. You're going to have crowns that don't fit. You're going to have sleepless nights, but you're going to come back tomorrow and you're going to get back at it, and you're going to be stronger. This profession we chose is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And I started to just get a little bit better. I stopped focusing on the one bad thing that happened during the day, and I started focusing on more of the 20 good things that happened. And I was, before therapy, I couldn't shake the day. I was just constantly thinking about all the patients I saw, the conversations I had, what I could have done better. But I slowly dug into what made me tick. And again, a lot of it was me just putting too much pressure on myself. And if something didn't go right, I would just beat myself up. And I started to let that go. And all of a sudden, there just became this absence of me focusing on the negatives. And I just told myself, you know what? I'm doing the best I can. If a patient doesn't want to move forward with treatment, if they give me a bad review, this has happened to every other dentist in the history of dentistry. So, to not beat myself up. Now, the second eureka moment was during COVID. And I realized pretty quickly that we weren't getting back to, regular business anytime soon. And I told myself, I've got to do something. My office is closed, and I'm not just going to sit here and eat my kids' leftover dino nuggets. So I started to write a book about my overcoming burnout, and that's where the Stress Free Dentist book came from. I started the podcast. I started the Facebook group. I started doing things that I'd never done before. And all of a sudden, this light switch went on where these ideas just kept popping into my head, and I was looking for problems to solve. And I was making so many great connections with the people I was talking to with my podcast, and it just never stopped. I just kept going, and I love being an entrepreneur. I think all these, side gigs and side hustles I have really helped my main hustle, which is my dental office. I go into the office and I'm a dentist, but I also have all these other things going on, and it just helps my brain. I'm not just focused on the dental office anymore. So I have all these other endeavors going on, and the day just flies by. There's ups and downs, there's bad days, but I look forward to the next day. And those were kind of my two eureka moments.
Do you think?
Oh, go ahead, JB, please.
What portion of that too is confidence? Like, how much of it, for instance, if it's not dentistry that gives you confidence, and we all know as type A people, we definitely have class 2 composites that we would love to put our name on, and class 2 composites that we hope we never see again, right? That it just, for whatever reason, it was either a bad tooth, hard to work on patient, whatever happens to be. Things just didn't go the way you wanted that day. But when you have confidence in either in your own capability, like now you've done 20,000 DOs, so you know that 99.9 of them go the way you want. So when the one doesn't go, you feel more confident that it's not always you. But two, finding that side hustle or that thing that you enjoy doing outside of the operatory can often be that other source of confidence that you develop, that you're like, I'm a good person. And I can do this thing super great. And so I'm just wondering if you've seen that in the other individuals that you've interviewed, and as you've sort of developed your coaching, do you see them sort of blossom because they believe in themselves either in the chair, or then find the other thing that they can do really well, and they start to believe in themselves again in another arena?
Yeah, personally, I did not have a lot of confidence. I'm introverted. I had a major case of imposter syndrome for a lot of my career. It was, again, it was all up here. It was, me just being too hard on myself, and there was a lot of fear and procrastination of wanting to branch out and try new things. COVID gave me that time and that ability to try new things other than just being a dentist. And there was a lot of fear, but I put up on a whiteboard, "You can do this." And I kept looking at that whiteboard, and public speaking absolutely terrified me. So what did I do? I entered the contest that Chad was talking about back when we first met, and I did a speaking contest. If you had told me, 10 years ago that I'd be speaking, around the country now, I would have, or if I had that I have a podcast, I would have said you were nuts. If you had said 10 years ago that I would have started organizations and out there being a key opinion leader for dental companies and helping other dentists, I would have said there's no way that I could have done that. So it was overcoming fear and preparation, lots of preparation and practice that gives me the confidence to do new things. And now I don't look back and regret. There was lots of regret before. Now I know that if I want to do something and I'm passionate about it, I will prepare, I'll work at it, and I have the confidence to do it. And I don't have the fear of failure. I think a lot of dentists have that fear of failure. They fear they're going to get a bad review. They fear that patient's going to get mad at them. They fear that they're going to lose all their patients if they go out of network. There's a lot of fear, and that is something that we have to work at. You can't live and practice and enjoy living with procrastination and fear. So, yeah, I do. I advise young dentists, which dentistry in the early years, you're going to suck. No one's good. There was one guy in my dental school, his name was Ernesto, and he was good at everything like right away. That was not me. I had to work at everything, and I had to do 1,000 DOs before I got good at them. I had to work at it, and with that, it built confidence. Also, I wish I'd taken classes earlier on leadership and public speaking, treatment planning, and not just focused on the clinical, because the other half of it is just how you present yourself. You got to present yourself with confidence to patients. And that is, I think, is a major thing for dentists to become less stressed and overcome burnout.
There's so many things that you've said that I think a lot of people really need to hear. And as you're talking through this, I'm sitting here thinking about myself. I mean, my biggest fear, I remember when I was, when I first started out, you mentioned a lot of these fears, and I think maybe they're common, maybe they're not, but I had them where if somebody would call the office and ask for their records, oh my God, I'm the worst dentist in the world, and the facts are that when we first start out, it's not that you're the worst dentist in the world. You're just the freaking youngest dentist that they've ever seen. That's part of it.
You might not be the best, though.
Yeah. People, yeah. I mean, you may not be that great anyways, but
not mutually exclusive.
Right. Yeah.
They're gonna go to you. They're not gonna go to you because of your age. They're not gonna go to you because you smile, because you talk too much, because you do this, because you do that. But the longer you stick with it, if you get people and you get how to treat people, it's all going to level out. It's all going to level out. But there's one of the things that you said earlier, I think is so powerful for people to hear, because so many people don't know that they need to seek the help of a counselor. I mean, I think there's a lot of people that go through life and just totally ignore that that's even a possibility. That person can't do this for me. Nobody can do this for me. This is something I've got to do on my own. But I think that's huge on your behalf to actually say, all right, I need a counselor to help me get through this. And so is there anything that happened that kind of triggered you for that? Or was that basically you learned that through your psychology degree?
Yeah, psychology degree, but it was also just me getting rock bottom to the point where I was so full of anxiety. I was so afraid of getting sued. I actually thought about leaving dentistry and going to law school because I wanted to do the suing. I wanted to flip the script and be the one doing the suing. And I was at the point where I just wanted to work in a cubicle. I didn't want to talk to patients. I didn't want to talk to staff. I just couldn't wait until I didn't have to do this anymore. And I was in $250,000 in debt, and that just wasn't an option. So and again, like I said, I had a background in psychology, so I always knew that I wanted to reach out and get the help, but I just never did, and I finally did. Now, for me, I always knew about psychotherapy, but for others, it could be reaching out to a mentor, a coach, uh, a peer. There's so many ways you can reach out. Personally, I think one-on-one coaching or therapy is the best. But whatever it takes, these problems don't go away on their own. And men especially have a major problem in sometimes just pushing these emotions deep down inside. And if you picture like you're pushing like a beach ball down under the pool, and you keep pushing it down, what's going to happen? It's going to come popping up and flying up, and it's going to explode. And I think that's where I would almost hit that point. And fortunately, some dentists don't seek help, and what do? They reach to substances. They reach to alcohol. Worst case scenario is suicide. These problems do not go away, and the sooner you can help yourself and reach out for help, the better. Even if you're just feeling like something isn't right, you're stressed, you're full of anxiety, or let's say you're doing great and you just want to get to that next level. There's nothing like having a coach or a therapist that can help you.
I want to highlight something you've just said, because the burnout rate in dentistry is incredibly high right now for a myriad of reasons post-COVID. And in particular, you're seeing more and more young graduates who are coming out in debt up to their eyeballs, frankly. 250, I think many of them will be super pumped about right now, which is more in line with where we all were when we left dental school. And they're having these existential crises. Like, did I pick the right career? Am I in the right spot? This is a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. They're carrying a lot of that home, as you reported. And I think you bring up a really powerful point. I'm not encouraging or saying that anybody should stay in a career that they may or may not be successful in. But when you've bitten off the size of debt that many of these individuals have, at least exhausting the avenues of therapy, counseling, mentorship, coaching, etc., before you throw in the towel and give up on that investment that you've made, I think should at least be considered. And I worry that many of them give up or start to pursue other avenues, or substance abuse, suicide in particular, because they don't see these other avenues for support, if you will, or they feel like a failure, either from family pressure, spousal pressure, internal pressure, etc. And so I really think you bring up an amazing point that therapy saved you in your profession, and you're a happy dentist now.
Stress-free, actually, not happy.
Yeah, but he's happy doing what he's doing, which if we went back at some point, you weren't happy to wake up, put your feet on the ground and go to your office on a daily basis. And I don't know if that's the natural evolution of all dentists, but I don't think it could be highlighted enough, the investment that you made in your own mental health and emotional well-being to get to that point. And if there's any silver lining to that, is that young doctors who are getting out, finding the pressures of the profession are a lot more than they thought it was going to be, that there may be other avenues of support that we should be considering before we give up and succumb to that pressure or mental health illness issues or whatever that may just now be a part of the journey, a required part. I don't know.
Yeah, I have a lot of young dentists that reach out to me, and the debt for sure is a major issue. And a lot of them, they're working for DSOs, which some are great, others aren't. But they may find themselves in a situation where they're just not happy.
Mhm.
But I think there's also a feeling that, like you said, they thought it was going to be a lot easier. And I tell a lot of young dentists, your first few years, like the minor leagues of a baseball team, like you're going to be riding the bus. It's going to suck. You're going to suck. You got to you got to work at it. You got to get better. And then you can finally get, to the major leagues. If you suck at crown preps, get awesome at crown preps. If you suck at class 2 fillings, get awesome, work at it. And the other thing is, if you think about it, back in dental school, I had 99 other classmates to engage with on a daily basis. As we get further away from dental school in years, our engagement with peers can often decrease. And there's nothing more powerful than peer engagement, reaching out to another dentist that's going through the same thing you are. We all live these parallel lives. It is so refreshing. And other dentists, maybe they're in a solo practice, they're in their own little bubble, they're isolated, and they don't have a peer group to engage with. It's just so important to get out there and talk to others. But there's nothing like that professional help. And that's, Chad, you mentioned the International Academy of Dental Life Coaches. Dr. Laura Brenner and I co-founded that because, for me, clinical psychotherapy was awesome, but the therapist that I was working with was just a local therapist. She was great. She knew nothing about dentistry. In fact, I'd go on this long rant about, the hygienist and the front desk and the assistants and the office manager and the patients. I'd be on like a 20-minute rant. And then she'd be like, so what do the assistants do again? And I'd be like, oh man. But, so we wanted to create an organization for all dental professionals, hygienists, dentists, assistants, admin, you name it, to have a place to go to reach out to a life coach that understands dentistry. And we also wanted to create a community for people that wanted to get into life coaching and coaching dentists. So that was the genesis of the International Academy of Dental Life Coaches. And that's something that in 2025, we're really going to be growing and just trying to create a safe place for people to reach out to, but also a place for people that are looking maybe for a second career. They want to help other dentists. Maybe they're a life coach, but they don't understand dentistry. We're going to help, ultimately teach them about dentistry. Or they're a dentist or hygienist and they want to get into life coaching. So we're going to create a community for all that.
So I know that you and Laura co-founded it, and there's two parallel but also divergent pathways with you two. I mean, Laura was like, I hate dentistry, screw dentistry, peace out. And you know what? I admire her so greatly for that, because she's found a way to continue working for dentists. And Laura, I know that was very cut and dry, but you know what? I'm very proud of you, Laura, for doing that. And you were like, I'm not sure what I think about dentistry, but I'm going to get the help and figure it out. And you found out that you truly loved it. So in this group, do you all cater to all, like, are there people that you're like, you know what? Maybe you're right. You do suck at dentistry. I know you wouldn't say that, but are there people that you're like, you know what? Maybe you're right. Maybe dentistry isn't the profession for you. I mean, have you seen that yet? Or do you feel that there's a lot of that out there?
Yeah, it's all up to the person. With traditional psychotherapy, we went back deep into my childhood and went back and figured out, what makes me tick. A life coach is more the here and the now and the future. And it's more the answers are within that person. It's just really kind of pulling it out. So, everybody's different. Some people are just done. They just want out of dentistry and they're, they just are looking for something else. Others, everyone's situation is so different. Other people like me just need, the help to overcome their own personal issues with perfectionism or burnout and stress. So it's really, dependent on the person and their situation, their age, their experience, there's so many factors.
Eric, tell us a little bit about the podcast, though. Like, when did the podcast start? How has it evolved? And what can people expect on there, and how do they find you?
Yeah, so it's the Stress Free Dentist podcast show. And you can always check out my website, thestressfreedentist.com, for the podcast, my books, any events I have coming up. Again, that started, after COVID. I was having these amazing conversations with dentists and with vendors and people that are just and hygienists and people that are just in the dental world. And I said, you know what? This could every conversation I was having, I felt like this could be a podcast. And it was another thing that I had no business doing. Um, Again, if you told me 10 years ago I had a podcast, I would have said you were absolutely bonkers. But it's something that I felt like I could do, and I overcame that fear to do it. And it's really just me having a casual conversation with a person like Chad. We just chatted, advice, successes, failures, what your career was like. It's very laid back conversational style, and we just kind of go through that person's story, and that's really what it's all about.
Do you remember, Eric, at that Smiles at Sea, the Frank King's talk? So Frank King talks about suicide amongst anybody, really, but I mean, obviously, as it relates to the dental profession, at the Smiles at Sea podcast. But he starts laying out some statistics, and I think, in the end, it becomes very, very, very powerful. And he's devoted his entire speaking career to speaking out for suicide awareness and suicide prevention. And it's to me, it's something that, we always joked about in dental school. We always heard, oh, dentistry is the highest suicide profession. And I don't think that that's the case anymore. But we actually do have a very, very high rate of suicide amongst our profession, comparatively speaking. And, I think that people need to find avenues to release their frustrations, to find out their sources of frustration, maybe a potential source of happiness, and move on. And so kudos to you for doing what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, make no mistake, this is a high stress demanding profession that we chose. And there's, we're not the only ones. My friend is a lawyer, and he's totally burned out. I mean, another friend of mine's a pediatrician, same thing. It's, when you're in a profession where you're treating people, and you're giving all you have to that person. That was another thing that really helped me. Was I realized I had to start taking care of myself. I was saying yes to everyone else. I was trying to treat everyone. I was trying to take care of everyone. And I felt like I started to actually say no more. And when you say no to others, sometimes it's like saying yes to yourself. Such as a case that I just don't feel comfortable doing, I refer that out. If there's a patient I'm not vibing with, I'll refer them out or dismiss them. There's so many things. And, for me, coaching and therapy, and I've even been through hypnotherapy, it'll always be a part of my life because, we go to the gym, we work on our biceps, we go running, but getting help for your health and wellness, it's like yoga for your brain. And if you could be the best dentist in the world with the greatest office and the greatest equipment, but if you're burned out, and you won't be productive, you won't be working, and you'll have a short career, and you'll be unhappy. So, the advice to the dentists out there: get help. And for me, I've always found that I call it the 3 T's: techniques, technology, and treatments. I'm constantly adding new things to my practice. I'm not stuck in that hamster wheel of dentistry where I'm just doing the same thing over and over. For example, a few years ago, I added clear aligners. I added sleep and airway. This past year, we went fully out of network. I added same day milling. We went fully digital. I got a 3D printer. these things make me look forward to going into work every day. And if you're constantly doing that and looking for new things, it'll keep you re-energized. And this profession, if you do it and you go to that next level and you get the help you need, it is an awesome profession. But you gotta take action. And by far the most re-energizing thing I've ever done in my career is go fully out of network.
Yeah.
And not go bankrupt.
Yeah. And you mentioned
Despite the myth.
Yeah, you mentioned the hygiene, potential hygiene shortage. We were able to actually let go of all of our temporary hygienists. We had a capacity issue, and so we grew by reduction. We did lose patients. A lot of them will come back, but that's part of the deal when you go out of network. So for me, that's a great way to battle the potential hygiene problem.
Yeah, I'm only 15 days into dropping 30% of our practice in network. And our numbers will be higher this January than they were last January. So I think, again, it's that sacred cow that many of us hang on to, thinking it's going to be the thing that will put us in the bankruptcy situation, or, when you get to that healthy mental space and you're ready to bet on yourself more than anybody else, then you'll be surprised how many people are also willing to take that journey with you.
I think everybody fears that curve is going to look like this when you drop.
Yeah.
And it will. But if you have the faith, then it's going to rebound, because if you treat people the right way, they're going to come back.
And I would say even more than faith is confidence in who you are and what you do differently than all the other practices. The love that you put into your profession, the time that you spend in continuing education, the things that you can offer patients that all those other people that are taking every plan that's out there cannot. There's just gotta be an appreciated confidence, and until you can actually feel that yourself, it's really hard to let go of those plans. But I think you made a tremendous move, as did you, JB. And just knowing the two of you, you will reap the rewards of doing that, and your patients will be more than willing to to pay a little bit extra for what you have to offer that no one else can, or that very few others can.
Well, I don't want to go over, but something that Eric really highlighted that kind of struck me, if we just had to show up and do dentistry every day, if all you had to do, and this is true for associates, owner docs, whatever, just had to go in and be a surgeon that day and do the thing that you went to dental school for 4 years and execute and rinse, repeat every day over and over again, your confidence and growth curve would be very quick, because you're repeating those performances over and over. But all day, it's the compression of the staff, the patients who are unhappy. When you walk in and they tell you, I hate being here, no offense, but I wish I was somewhere else. And now I don't want to pay you for the services that you provided because I didn't actually want to be here and do the, it's every little pounding pressure that happens over the day that takes a really good clinician and a really good person with the best intentions to be a really good provider for folks, and literally beats the shit out of them. Like, they wake up every day and they're like, who's going to take my soul today? Like, who's going to eat it up and spit it out for their enjoyment? And so one of the ways you can get back at that whole mantra, as you start to drop those networks or participate, you become a little less a victim of the regulatory agencies, of the mantra of what has been built up that would deem you to be successful. And I think there's a lot mental health wise that can happen just in those little moments of taking ownership back of what a private practice can look like.
Well, guys, we are running a little over right now as it is, and I think we could have talked for a lot longer, but Eric, I want to thank you for being with us. Thank you for what you're doing for the profession. And just what a pleasure to get to know you a little bit better. And Chad, if you would close us out.
I would be honored to. Eric, it was great to have you, as Jeff said. Great to learn more about you, learn what you're doing for our profession. But, I'm going to take a couple of things that you said and take it just one step further. You said it's okay to refer people out. It's okay to not be the best at certain things. And what I would tell people is seek help, find what you're really good at, hone in on that, find what you want to become really good at, become better at that. And I'm going to just also say, it's okay to admit that you're not the best at X or Y or Z. I had a patient come in today that was furious that I wouldn't do a root canal. And I just said, you know what? I stopped doing them a long time ago. I can't keep up with the materials. I don't have time to keep up with the techniques. And quite frankly, I wouldn't want to go to a family practitioner that said, you need heart surgery, and I'm going to go ahead and try it right now. I'm going to send you to the person that's the best at doing this particular procedure. And, when you start struggling, you don't have to be in it alone. There's a lot of other people that are struggling. Don't struggle alone. Don't struggle silently. Seek help. And so, Eric, there's a lot that you said that provides a lot of value. And I'd ask if you have a minute, maybe post a little something on our site in the next few days. We'd love to see it. Just maybe just a little tidbit about seeking help, getting help. And you can plug yourself in that. We'd love to have it. But thank you so much for being here. And thanks everybody for watching tonight. And until next week, we will see you all.
Good night.
Cheers, good night, everyone.
Or shall we say, Jeff, adios.
Adios, amigos.
And that wraps up another podcast for Dentists in the Know. On behalf of Dr. Jennifer Bell, Dr. Chad Duplantis, and myself, remember that we've got a great profession, so let's make it a great day, Dinks.